Have you ever had an experience like this? Someone opens their mouth to speak, and before you even hear what they're saying, your body has already reacted. You roll your eyes, your heart starts racing, your stomach tightens, even your scalp. You are clearly a gentle, emotionally stable person. But the moment this person appears in your life, you become irritable, anxious, and full of aggression. You start to doubt yourself. Do I have a bad temper? Am I too sensitive? No, you're not. Today, I want to talk to you about a phenomenon that truly exists in psychology, yet is rarely discussed openly. It is more common than you think, and more deserving of serious attention than you might imagine. Let's start with a thought experiment. Close your eyes and recall someone you once liked very much but now feel extremely repulsed by. You don't need to deliberately remember specific events, just notice how your body feels when you think of them. Is there an indescribable sense of something is off? Your throat tightens, your shoulders stiffen. Maybe you even feel an urge to leave the room immediately. This is the most typical feature of physiological disgust. It is not the result of rational judgment, but a bodily instinct. In psychology, physiological disgust is usually categorized as a psychosomatic emotional response syndrome. The biggest difference between it and ordinary dislike is this. Ordinary dislike can be reasoned with. He's a bit annoying, but not a bad person. Whereas physiological disgust is irrationally your body simply refuses to accept this person, even if your rational mind tells you they don't seem to have done anything that bad. More importantly, physiological disgust rarely appears out of nowhere. It is not the opposite of love at first sight. It is often the body's final verdict after a relationship has deteriorated over a long period of time. So what kinds of harm lead to physiological disgust? I've summarized 3 core sources. Repeated, overlooked small-scale harm. For example, your partner's habits that never change, leaving socks everywhere, speaking harshly, never keeping promises. Each individual issue may not seem like a big deal, but when you face the same problem for the 50th or 100th time and the other person still shows no change, your body begins to accumulate debt. Every unresolved conflict is a liability. As the debt piles up, your body eventually uses disgust as a way to force collection. Wounds from major betrayal that were never truly repaired. Betrayal, infidelity, deception, hiding major truths is one of the most common triggers of physiological disgust. Many people think that forgiveness is the end point, but in reality, forgiveness is only the beginning. True repair requires the other person to acknowledge the harm, take responsibility, and actively rebuild trust. If these steps are missing, your subconscious remains in a constant danger alert state. On the surface, you may seem to interact normally, but your body is constantly saying, "This person is not safe. This person has hurt me. Do not relax." And so, disgust arises. It is not revenge. It is the final line of long-term emotional neglect and invalidation. This is especially common in parent-child relationships. We often hear people say, children naturally love their parents. That is true. When a baby is born, there is no negative bias toward their parents. They even perceive their parents' voice and scent as sources of safety and comfort. But what happens if, during a child's growth, they continuously experience denial, belittlement, indifference, or neglect from their parents? They cannot stop loving their parents because that is a survival instinct, but they can begin to dislike them. This dislike is essentially an emotional withdrawal. Since the love I give you is not returned, I can only take it back and replace it with disgust to protect myself. Parents are a mirror for their children. When that mirror constantly reflects you're not good enough and you're not worthy of love, the only thing a child can do is treat the other person the way they have been treated. Now comes the most difficult situation. You clearly feel physiological disgust towards someone. Yet for various reasons, marriage, family, work, finances, you cannot completely leave the relationship. What should you do? From a psychological perspective, my core advice is do not resist, do not entangle, and do not try to prove that you are right. The more you dislike someone, the more uncontrollably you pay attention to them and analyze in them, interpreting their every move and expression. In psychology, this is called relationship rumination. You consume large amounts of energy focusing on this person negatively. Energy that could have been used to build your own life and happiness. Even worse, this attention creates a distorted kind of binding between your energy fields. The more you dislike them, the more space they occupy in your mind. The more they occupy your mind, the less you can focus on yourself. It becomes a vicious cycle. So, if you cannot leave someone who triggers physiological disgust, try these 3 methods. Method 1. Physical distance first. Psychological work second. Don't force yourself to let go, forgive, or see the bigger picture right away. These are big words, and big words often don't work in the face of real wounds. Start with the physical level. Reduce the time you spend in the same space. Stagger your schedules. If they're in the living room, go to the bedroom. If they are at home, go out. Create as much distance as possible. Physical space is the most effective emotional buffer. Method 2. Stop trying to understand them. Start protecting yourself. Many kind people fall into a trap. They can't help but analyze why the other person behaves this way. Maybe it's their childhood. Maybe they're under stress. Maybe they're actually quite pitiful. Please stop. If you already feel physiological disgust towards someone, your body has already given you a clear answer. Continuing to understand them at this point is not kindness, it is violence toward yourself. What you need to do is not understand them, but protect yourself. Method 3. Practice non-response. This may be the hardest, yet most important step. When you have to interact with this person, practice not reacting. When they speak, don't respond. When they make noise, don't look over. When they try to provoke you, give no reaction. This is not cold violence, it is an active interruption of energy exchange. You are no longer handing over the remote control of your emotions to them. Their behavior is theirs. Your calm belongs to you. Every time you successfully do not respond, you are telling your body, this person no longer has permission to affect me. Over time, your physiological disgust will gradually weaken, not because the problem is solved, but because you are no longer feeding it. Physiological disgust may sound like a very negative term. It evokes images of irritability, indifference, and broken relationships. But I prefer to see it as this: your body is protecting your final boundary for you. In a society that encourages tolerance, forgiveness, and letting go, we are often asked to ignore our own feelings. Physiological disgust is precisely the signal that cannot be ignored. It is blunt, unreasonable, even a little embarrassing, but it is absolutely real. If you are currently experiencing physiological disgust towards someone, please stop blaming yourself. You are not bad-tempered, you are not overreacting, you simply have a wounded soul inside you that is trying desperately to protect you. Of course, I must also say something important. If you find yourself experiencing physiological disgust toward all intimate relationships, or if this feeling has severely affected your daily life, please consider seeking professional psychological help. Sometimes, what your body is signaling is not just an issue with one person, but a deeper wound that needs to be seen and healed. But no matter what, please believe this: your body has never betrayed you. It simply wants you to live well. If you enjoyed this article, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Have you ever experienced physiological disgust towards someone? How did you handle it? Share your story in the comments.